Perfectly justified. Question number 3, Todd McClay.
Me taki mata, Mr Speaker, and kia orana. What have been the recent trends, to the Minister of Finance, what have been the recent trends in the cost of living for New Zealanders?
On behalf of the Minister of Finance. Thank you, Mr Speaker. I can report some very encouraging progress, particularly with consumer price inflation, food price inflation and in electricity prices. That progress is particularly stark when you compare the current situation with the first decade of the century in the 9 years to 2008. Statistics New Zealand yesterday reported the CPI for the year to March increased by just 0.9%. That was the 4th consecutive quarter that annual consumer inflation has been 1% or less. This is a considerable improvement on consumer price inflation of more than 5% in late 2008, just before this government first took office. Combined with interest rates at 50-year lows, this low inflation is delivering considerable benefits for households and businesses across New Zealand in terms of their standard of living.
A supplementary question, Todd McClay.
To the Minister, what have been the main contributing factors to annual inflation remaining low at around 1%?
Honourable Steven Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, the Consumer Price Index showed that in the past year, the price of telecommunication services fell 7.2%, audio-visual and computing equipment fell 12%, domestic airfares fell 9.9%, and fresh milk was down 7.7%. Electricity prices did rise 5.2% in the year. Most of that is due to a one-off increase in the cost of transmission prices of getting the electricity to households around New Zealand. And in any event, it's substantially less than the 8% average year-on-year increases in the 9 years to 2008 when people like Trevor Mallard were in charge. In addition, the food price index fell 0.4% in the year to March. This is led by a 2.6% fall in grocery prices. Cheese was down 9.1% and butter fell 22%. It's interesting to note that all of these commodities were priced in a competitive market and the government didn't control any price setting in any of them.
Supplementary question, Todd McClay.
What reports has he seen on the price of electricity paid by hard-working New Zealanders?
Honourable Steven Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, the Electricity Authority yesterday released its review of the electricity market in 2012. The report showed 18% of customers, around 32,000 people a month, voted with their feet by switching electricity providers in 2012, presumably for lower prices. And for the benefit of opposition, that's called competition. Since November 2008, annual electricity price increases have halved from the 8% year-on-year increases suffered by hard-working New Zealanders during the 9 previous years. This follows a number of pro-competitive reforms by this government, which apparently the opposition is not aware of. We have reconfigured SOE assets to increase competition, created the Electricity Authority and made it responsible for promoting competition, allowed line businesses to compete in the retail space and funded promotion of consumer switching through the What's My Number campaign.
Supplementary question, Todd McClay.
And has the Minister seen any other proposals to try to lower electricity prices?
Honourable Steven Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, weirdly, yes, I have. Just before lunch today, I received one report which I believe came from the North Korean School of Economics. Apparently, the suggestion there was that nationalising the entire electricity industry would somehow lead to lower power prices. Oh, I don't think they like that.
Point of order. Order. I have a point of order from the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr Speaker, surely it occurred to you that a minister cannot knowingly mislead the House. Now, you and I would know that he did not receive anything from the North Korean School of Economics, and yet he got up and he said that. Now, perhaps you'd like to bring him back to order.
I think he was... I don't accept that point of order. Will the member continue? Would the Minister
Speaker,
continue with his answer?
If I could perhaps clarify my answer, I should clarify that I received a report from the local branch of the North Korean School of Economics.
Point of order.
You know full well that there is no local branch, and they can treat it with levity, but he is knowingly misleading the House. Now, please do your job.
Order. The Minister is entirely responsible for the content of his answer. If the member thinks that there has been a misleading of the House, there is an appropriate way to raise that matter, and the member knows that. Point of order, Honourable Trevor.
And in fact, I have two. The first is a relatively simple one. Sir, you let the government members barrack during the Right Honourable Member's point of order. In fact, sir, you almost looked like you were going to do it yourself. From the way that you were laughing, Mr. Speaker, can I ask you to treat this House treat this House with impartiality?
And the second point?
The second point of order, sir, is that you have already ruled that you do not accept letters of matters of privilege dealing with supplementary answers. That was a supplementary answer. Are you changing that rule?
No, well, with regards to the first question, the member is absolutely right. Points of order should be heard in silence, and I certainly don't encourage barracking from either side through a point of order. With regards to the second point of order, I make a decision on each alleged breach of privilege on a case-by-case basis. Further supplementary questions? Has the Minister finished his answer? No, sir. No, he was interrupted with a point of order. Order. The Minister was interrupted with a point of order. He has every right to complete his answer and will do so.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just to accept the Right Honourable Member's point, it certainly appeared to be the local branch of the North Korean School of Economics, but I accept his assurance that perhaps it wasn't what it appeared. Anyway, the suggestion was that nationalising the entire electricity industry would somehow lead to lower power prices. In fact, as we have seen historically the world over, it would simply lead to blackouts, higher prices and considerably higher costs on taxpayers. That, Mr. Speaker, is the back to the 70s government proposal for the Labour-Greens coalition on running the electricity industry in this country.
Order. Question number 4, Sua Williams-Theo.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Social Development. Does she agree